LPs on the panel and some who will join in later. And we want to keep this as interactive as possible. The intent for this is there is a large event that's happening outside, and it's going to be difficult to grab the people that you specifically want to meet. And so we thought that, the half an hour after this over breakfast, those of you who got the eating out of the way, and then really try and meet the people you want, even if it is briefly, put a face to the name, and then carry forward those discussions later. So in the context of where we are sitting, not just Delhi, but in the World Cup in India, I thought maybe we will use that wonderful name, Kohli, as my opening comments in terms of where we see the GPLP community interaction. So the first thing really to the LPs on the panel is the letter K, keep the faith. I think we're seeing a lot of exciting things happen yesterday, a lot of young entrepreneurs, a lot of interesting opportunities. India continues to be, as is often mentioned, the bright spark on the horizon, sometimes a dark horizon and seemingly darker in some parts of the world. But clearly, India offers that opportunity. And as you share your 2 or 3 minutes comments, we would like to hear really if there's any specific angle and lens that you are coming at in terms of investing in India. The second is the letter O, and that is about the outcomes and the measurement of those outcomes. We're seeing that in global trends, whether it's at the GSG or whether it's at the gym, a lot of the conversations around now, worries around greenwashing. Even yesterday, the panels alluded to that. And so, how are outcomes being measured? What is the rigor that is being put into place to ensure that outcomes are really being mapped? The third is H. Those of you who are not from India will struggle with the name Kohli, but the rest are finding this easy. The H is about how do we look at it more holistically. At a policy level, at a framework level, tomorrow we celebrate 25 years of the microfinance sector in India. I used to chair Sadhan, and we're celebrating that tomorrow. So all of you who are in the room are welcome. But we would like to, really see how policy level, and especially Sajista, since you're here, NABARD played such a critical role. SIDBI, RBI in terms of priority sector lending, creating and enabling MFI and BFC category, a small finance bank. So what are the policy levers that you as LPs would like to see happen in India? Because the IFC team is compiling your comments, your suggestions, and these are going to be critical as we build, this $1 trillion for the green economy that we want. There is the letter L, which is leverage. And I talked with my Grameen Impact NBFC hat on. One of the critical things we've seen that helped to catalyze microfinance was access to debt and the ability to raise bank funding and other funding. We have in Grameen pioneered SDG impact bonds, where we're trying to find innovative ways to lend to enterprises serving the SDG, and within that SDG 7, SDG 2, food security, climate resilient agriculture. So those are key themes that need catalytic funding, that need leverage. How do you see that playing out, and what really are you bringing to the table as a GP? For too often you've heard GPs come and pitch to you, but today we would like to sort of throw it the other way around with the Swayamvar and say, why should we be the LPs that your fund should consider? And we would sort of request you to indulge us in that, to tell us what are your themes, what are your focus areas, and what are you looking at. And finally, the letter I, which is what the UN signs off on, which says everyone is included. Include all models. And the World Cup is showing us, right? People like the Netherlands who are here, and Jaap and Bram are saying, your team is doing extremely well. So I'm glad we included Netherlands into that round, and Afghanistan surprising us tremendously. So we don't know where the new winner can come from, which sector, which subsector, and so how do you look at really trying to innovate as an LP? But before we move to the LPs, we'll get Saurabh in to give us his very quick opening comments on what is the GF strategy and the way forward, and then we kick it off, and maybe we start alphabetically with Abler, Noble, and Nordic, and then move across the table, where each one then shares, and then we'll hear Saji sir in the main plenary later, where all of us can join. So over to Sir.
First of all, let me thank IIC for inviting us here. Very quickly, I'll be very brief. I'll give a very brief overview of what GIAB is, because it's a very new concept. It's a very new institution. We're just about 2 years old. Launched in Glasgow in 2021. Perhaps the largest philanthropic effort in the energy sector in the world. We are incubated by the Rockefeller Foundation, the Bezos Earth Fund, and the IKEA Foundation. And they have committed $1.5 billion of catalytic capital into this new entity. We are present in 7 countries in the world. Obviously, India being the largest of all. And we started our operations here in India 6 months ago. So very quickly, let me mention what we are doing and what kind of partnerships we are looking to forge. While $1.5 billion seems a lot in terms of philanthropic capital, but even if 100% is committed to India, it's still just too little for what India needs. So what we are looking at is not really investments in individual projects, but investments to change the ecosystem. Now let me give you an example what that means. Some of you may have been following what is happening in the electric bus sector in India, where EESL was doing this bus as a service tenders on behalf of state transport utilities. About 12,000 buses were invested in by virtually all the OEMs, including Tata. But after that, the program has come to a grinding halt because very obviously the state transport utilities, their ability to repay over a 10-12 year period is very, very bad, and therefore there was no interest in these tenders beyond the first 10-12,000. So what we have done along with the US government and Government of India, and this figured into PM Modi and Biden's joint statement, we are putting together a risk guarantee fund where we are committing $150 million from our resources, and $350 million is coming from the Government of India. Most importantly, Government of India has also identified a public sector entity to become the Solar Energy Corporation of India for public transport. So you will see in the next 2 or 3 years, almost 50,000 buses on the road. People like you will possibly benefit from it. That's number one. Number two, the second ecosystem change that we are seeing, we looked at the innovation ecosystem in this country, and while there's a lot of startups and a lot of startups get funded from people in this room, but if you look at the clean energy infrastructure startups, there's hardly any funding coming there. So we are going to use our catalytic capital to put together a $100 billion fund only targeting towards these clean energy infrastructure-based startups, where it's not a 2 or 3 times leverage that you seek in 2 or 3 years, but we need, for example, new battery chemistries, other forms of renewable energy that can be done. And the third and the last part that we are looking at is, while there is a lot of enthusiasm about India's energy transition, but we must also remember there are about 25, 30 much smaller Indias within India. So what we are doing is, along with McKinsey and Company, we are developing an energy transition plan for the state of Maharashtra. It's not just a plan that will remain on paper, but this plan has 21 projects that will be monitored by the Deputy Chief Minister himself. And the government of Maharashtra is going to commit about 20,000 crores over the next 5 to 6 years for implementation of those projects. Again, this is an opportunity that will throw up massive, significant investment opportunities for everyone sitting in the room. My final point, I mean, we are here to help you, to serve, to see how we can increase clean energy investments in this country. So do reach out to us if you have any suggestions for us. Our name itself says Global Energy Alliance, so we are an alliance, so which means all of you are part of GIAB. So do consider us as part of your effort, and we'll be happy to take anything forward which supports the energy transition needs of this country. Thank you very much.
Thanks, sir. That was really. Let's give him a round of applause. I know this is a small group. for us. But I think that's a significant commitment. There's amazing energy behind it. I met your team in London, and there's significant commitment. So at 9:25, when we break for breakfast again, those who are interested, please grab Saurabh, have that conversation. We'll start, as I said, Alfred, and then at 2.5 minutes we may do this, just so that we can then move on. But over to you, Smriti.
I don't think I'll need more than that, but good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here as part of this gathering. Just a quick introduction. I'm Smriti Chandra. I represent a fund called Abler Nordic. We are a Norwegian-based public-private partnership fund. We have been in existence since 2008. We started out as investors into microfinance way back in 2010. And we, over the years, have evolved ourselves. Started off with having Noor Fund, which is a DFI of Norwegian government, along with a large family office based in Norway as our investors. From there to now, we have $370 million asset under management today, spread across 4 funds, and the investor base from 2 to almost 10, which includes now the DFI of Government of Denmark as well, IFU, which is here, along with a bunch of private financial investors spanning across banks, insurance companies, large foundations, all based in the Nordic region. Over the years, we've also evolved ourselves from being a pure play microfinance investors into looking at financial inclusion as a broader mandate. The underlying thesis of serving poor to low income to low to middle income customer segments continues, but the way the delivery of financial services to this target segment is what we have broadened ourselves for to investing in. Primarily equity investors, focused on 3 broad geographies: South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Sub-Saharan Africa, and we have teams across the region. We've done over 30 plus investments so far, have also seen some good exits so far. That's quite positive. And as we speak, we are launching our next fund, Fund 5, which is expected to be $180 to $200 million starting next year, 40% of which should come to India as an allocation. And really looking forward to furthering our investments into the space with a different, not different, but an expanded dimension of looking at embedded financing models, where we have agri as well, climate as well, embedded into the solutions that get across to the customer segments. And look forward to engaging with all of you. Any opportunities that we can look at from an equity investment perspective, happy to discuss. Thank you.
Thank you, Smriti. Perfect timing. Excellent.
Yeah, hi. Good morning, everyone.
We have so much time, we could ask you who you think is going to win the World Cup and make a prediction. India. Okay, so that's an easy question. Now the next person has to say who is India going to play in the semis.
I think New Zealand. New Zealand.
Okay, cool.
Hi. Good morning, everyone. I am Nitish Chavla. I'm from the Danish DFI IFU. IFU has been in existence since 1967, and we have been in India for more than 30 years now. And we have done 109 investments in India. But many people have not heard about us because maybe until 2014 we had a tied mandate where we could only invest in companies where there was Danish equity participation. So out of these 109 investments, maybe 100 are with Danish companies. And we have a small capital base, and so we decided to raise third-party funds. So we manage the government's money, but we have also raised money from Danish pension funds. And we are primarily an equity investor. So we raised a large fund called the SDG Fund in 2018, which was a $800 million fund, which we are deploying across 4 key sectors: green energy and infrastructure, financial services, agri-businesses, and healthcare. The first fund is fully deployed, and we are also raising the next fund. The next fund will also be roughly $800 million. Other than that, recently the Danish government has also announced an overhaul of IFU, and going forward, I think for the next 6 years, the government is also planning to inject $70 million every year into IFU, and also provide us refinancing facilities of around $2 billion over the next 6 years. So we'll have capability to do more loans as well. And right now our AUM is around $2.5 billion. We plan to double it in the next 5 years. So we are open to look at both equity and debt investments. On equity, our ticket sizes vary between 20 to 50 million dollars, and on debt we can do anywhere between 10 to 20 million dollars. Yeah, as like Aeronautics, we are also spread across the globe. We are headquartered in Copenhagen. We have a team in India. We have offices in Nairobi and Accra, and also in Singapore. So looking forward to meet you guys for both equity and debt opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and you were the great host at the GIN event in Copenhagen. So thank you to the IFU for that commitment. And as for the New Zealand prediction, time will tell. But thank you. Yes, over to you.
Okay, good morning. This is Taniguchi from JICA, JICA India office. Nice meeting you. JICA is a Japanese government ODA implementing agencies. Then we started the operation 50 years before. Then basically our activity is G2G based funding. We financing the Metro or HSR or DFC or any other energy sector, agriculture sectors, water sector, many things. But the 10 years before, we decided to expand our activity in the private sector finance and investment. In India, so far we injected our equity investment as a LP, 2 transactions 2 years ago. And then also we are now financing to the private banks through the bank loans. Then our focus area is everything in line with the SDGs. So that says the everything you are now in your mind. So today I'm very happy to meet with you and then to discuss with future collaborations in debt areas and also the equity areas. Thank you very much. Also, I'd like to add one thing. Since we are now funding to the 2 funds, and then in order to, develop the value add for the portfolio companies, we are now conducting some technical cooperations in order to have the better impact assessment system to be built in to the other portfolio companies and then fund. So we would like to discuss further in the coffee sessions. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I thought you took the mic back to talk about cricket. Have you watched a cricket match in India?
Yes. India is very, very good.
and you watched the match yesterday?
No.
Okay.
I went there for my kids' football team.
Oh wow.
Yes.
But you have a favorite cricketer?
Kind of, yes.
Can you tell us?
Not really.
Alright. But thank you for being so sporting. Srivali.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Srivali Krishnan. I'm with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. Unlike the LPs who talk about fund, we are slightly different. We are basically one of the largest philanthropies where majority of our funding is directed towards grant financing. Over 5 years back, we also started what we call a strategic investment fund that specifically looks at equity investments, but those that can have large programmatic impact as well. In India, we currently have between 4 to 5 investments, but we have also ventured into blended finance in partnership with some of the DFIs to really look at how we can unlock capital for priority areas. In terms of what's the thesis of our financing in India and also the focus region between South Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa, given we are part of the philanthropic capital space, we are looking at taking riskier bets both in upstream as well as downstream areas where we don't see other partners putting in capital. And in terms of priority areas for specifically looking at climate, where we think we're slightly late, we have prioritized climate adaptation as the priority area for the Gates Foundation. Though the Gates family also have another parallel venture which is called Breakthrough Ventures, which is looking at energy areas. In the climate adaptation space, our primary goals would be looking at productivity, small-scale producer incomes, but also resilience from the standpoint of climate. As I had mentioned, our focus is both around upstream and downstream. However, if we look at the deployment of our capital, it still is around 60% upstream and only 40% is on downstream areas. So really looking at riskier bets where no other capital is being deployed. From the standpoint of climate, we are looking at enabling the ecosystem, but also serving as catalyst for some of the large deployment, whether it is through the government, through the private capital, or through the IFIs, and how can we serve as a catalyst to enable that ecosystem further. Thank you.
And your cricket question is still pending. Anyone who you think, who's India going to play in the semis?
I would say again South Africa, but they get beaten badly.
Oh, wow. Who will get beaten badly?
South Africa.
Thankfully. So there's a repeat of Sunday, you're saying? Not bad. Anjana is more worried about the cricket question than the... I saw that expression change.
Yeah, I'm not following, I'm so sorry.
No, not at all. Well, over to you, Anjana.
Hi, I'm Anjana from Need Fund, and Need Fund is managed by SBI Capital Ventures Limited. The focus of Need Fund is climate and environment. We've made some investments into new age sectors such as retrofit emission control, green hydrogen, biofuels, etc. Our LPs are JICA and Tari Chisara here, and Nina from the EIB. So that's our strategy, which is climate and environment. The manager, which is SBI Cap Ventures Limited, has a direct fund and a fund-to-fund strategy. In the fund-to-fund strategy, SBI Capital Ventures manages largely two pools of capital. One is the Self-Reliant India Fund, where they manage capital from the Ministry of MSME, which is directed towards daughter funds, and the thesis here is to uplift the SME sector in India, which is largely into manufacturing. And the second pool of capital that is managed is for the UK government. So for the direct capital that comes from the UK government, there is a gateway that has been provided under the UK India Development Corridor, which is called UK IDCM, and that directs all the direct capital from the government of UK into downstream funds, and that's also managed by SBI Capital Ventures Limited. The thesis of investment here is climate, technology, innovation, any kind of innovative solutions that focuses on SDGs. And very soon we are also working on another program. We are working with the Indian government and the government of UK to take Indian innovations to third countries. And this is also focused on the fact that there are a lot of Indian innovations that are indigenous. The problems of other South Asian countries or the global South are very similar. They have very similar environmental concerns, they have very similar pollution-related concerns. And the thought is to take these innovations to the third countries, indigenize them, give them market access, give them technical cooperation or assistance where they will be able to foster and scale up their economy. Yeah, I was talking about the third program, which is the technology transfer program. This is in partnership with the Government of India and also the Government of UK, where Indian technologies will be scaled over to third countries. This is largely because the concerns of, say, other third countries and the global south remain the same. These are largely related to pollution, lack of access to healthcare, etc. And the idea is to scale and transfer these technologies to third countries, provide them with market access, and also technical cooperation wherein these companies can scale up that transfer.
Thank you, Anjana. We shall not let you go without the cricket question because you're the sponsor of this event. So thank you firstly to the team from NEEV and who's been wonderfully supportive of this. But at least you can tell us who's your favorite Indian bowler. You can do an audience poll, phone a friend. Who's the leading wicket taker currently? Shravani, just say Shravani.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I can tell you who my French Open favorite.
Ah, see, that's a different ball game altogether. Good. Over to you, Nina.
Okay, so Nina Fenton, and I'm the resident of European Investment, resident representative of European Investment Bank for South Asia, based here in Delhi. So we are the bank of the European Union. We are fully owned by the EU member states. And people keep asking me about strategy and policy, and we very explicitly have no strategy because we exist to support EU objectives and EU policy and strategy. I'm actually going to start with the cricket because otherwise I get the difficult question last. So I come originally from the UK, and for me, cricket is like a word that like sends me to sleep like straight away, right? Like really straight away.
The team is sleeping right now. They Indian cricket team.
Yeah. But actually being here in India, it's a completely different sport, and I've really seen, India is bringing a lot of talent, a lot of innovation, technology, and energy to cricket, actually. And this is true. This is, a very superficial observation. I can't tell you who took the most wickets or widgets or whatever they're called, but that I know. And that's kind of also why we're here in India and why we want to do more in India. So what do we do at the moment? Climate is really our big focus. We say we don't have a strategy, but actually in practice we do, because we have a goal to do at least, I think, 50% of our activities focused on climate and environment. And in Asia, it actually has to be sort of 99%. So climate, and climate. And underneath that, we try to do things that help, support women's economic empowerment, poverty reduction. We're also very keen on connectivity. We do about 50% of our work with the public sector here, and actually in India we would like to do a lot more with the private sector, because worldwide we do, outside the EU, about 50% private sector. So what we are doing here, we have the foothold in the fund, so we're very happy to support NEEV. We're also in 2 of the JEF funds, and that's where we see a lot of this innovation happening. We also do a lot in other parts of the world with credit lines, including for microfinance and for banking. We haven't had that here in India for some reasons. There was some issues with the financial sector a few years ago, but it's somewhere where we would like to be. What do we need from our partners? We have a very, very small team, and we have a medium risk tolerance here. We invest actually at own risk. We don't have a lot of grant resources. So what we're looking for is partners that we can really trust, that we know they're making good commercial choices, but they're also very strong on the environmental and social side. That's super, super important for us. We also work a lot with partners, including Gates Foundation, including hopefully GIAP, to help us with some of the policy stuff, with some of the sort of blending. So that's really, really important. And then we want partners who are really focused on the environmental side, on climate, and who are really supporting this innovation, because that's what we need to solve the challenges that we're facing today. So look forward to meeting a lot of you and hearing more. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nina. Rajesh sir.
So good morning, and this is my first interaction with the investing community or the LPs and all. Those of you who are familiar with NABARD, we are the largest DFI in the country. Taking the cricket analogy, we don't want to be timed out in the climate space. That's where. So what we thought is that we have set up a new department within the NABARD, Department of Climate Action and Sustainability. Earlier, we were doing a lot of initiatives on climate, because the problem with our organization that we are dealing with agri and rural development, and agriculture sector is the most important sector, which is both a cost-effective factor for climate and also being impacted by the climate changes. So we are the national implementing entity for the Green Climate Fund, and also at the UNFCCC also we are associated with that. So right now we are looking for partners. We are there for the both asset and liability side. See, we have government backing, and we are setting up some 2-3 funds also. One of the funds, NABventure Fund, is the best performing public sector fund in the agri, rural and climate space. So we have expanded the scope of that fund to climate as well. Now we are coming out with the second fund. We will be talking about that later. And then we are also coming out with a blended capital fund with an association with the Government of India for supporting initiatives in rural, including agriculture, including climate. Recently we have raised funds from the market through social bonds. That was the first ever social bond issuance by a AAA rated company in India. It was the size of 100 crores Indian rupees, and we got subscription at least 4 times. That showed the appetite of the investing community for that. No, we are here to create both opportunities for investors, and also on our own we'll also be raising funds, because we have close to around 60,000 crore of capital and own resources, which we can leverage for investing and also for raising money from the market. And those of you who are not aware, we are the largest domestic debt issuer after HDFC. Of course, now HDFC Limited has been merged to HDFC Bank. So now hopefully we'll become one of the largest debt issuer in the market. So these debts which we are raising are being channelized to the rural sector, which is abroad. We can't differentiate between climate and rural, because it's all intermingled. So we'll be looking at those opportunities as well. And I'm here to take sense of what you people think about the sector as we step in a larger way, because now we are talking to even ADB, FAO, and all for collaborations. Recently, the PA also will be interested, because being a national entity, we can have that quasi sovereign status also. So we are looking at those opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sajid sir. That cricket analogy was completely timely. I mean, Angelo Matthews yesterday, not many in the room would have maybe picked that up, but that's fabulous, and the linkage. And you were so humble when you said not many people may know or you may not be aware. And so everyone's aware of NABARD, and really proud of what you've built. And
I'm a new entrant in NABARD. That may be the reason.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for being here with us this morning. Yeah.
Yes, good morning. My name is Jaap Henking, representing FMO, the Dutch Development Bank. Well, first of all, about the cricket. Actually, I can tell you my son actually attended the match in Kolkata earlier this week, and I have a nice movie which I can show you later on. And congratulations with the victory. FMO's focus areas are clearly around financial inclusion, agriculture and food, and energy and climate. So those are the 3 main focus areas for FMO. In the financings we provide, we have a clear focus on SDG 8, which is sustainable economic development. SDG 10, which is reducing inequalities, so that's also within countries, but also reducing inequalities within countries, so gender, inclusion, those type of topics. And the third SDG we're focusing on is SDG 13, which is climate. But as focus sectors, food and agri, SDG 2, of course, we also cover. FMO provides debt and equity. I'm representing the private equity department. Our portfolio total amounts to 3.2 billion. On our own account, and we manage a portfolio of 650 million on behalf of the Dutch government, as they also provide us with capital. In our strategy 2013, we distinct also our activities along the scale of pioneering, developing, and then scaling. So I will tell you a little bit about the idea. So the pioneering, and I think in India there's no lack of people pioneering. So pioneering is setting up new ventures. So we are also active in venture capital, and then bring these companies to the next scale, which is developing, which we will provide out of our own funds, and then scaling. And for scaling, we also do need partners. So the partners we work with to provide additional financing. Okay, my time is up. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Just a follow on. When you mentioned pioneering, developing, and scaling, are there sweet spots in terms of sizes that you have for each of those?
Yes, thanks for asking. So the pioneering, and I didn't mention that, it is more high risk, smaller amounts. So therefore, we also use governmental funding and philanthropic funding. So that's also where we're looking for partners to bring those funds. Then developing comes out our own funds, and then scaling partly our own funds, but also third parties which are more commercially driven.
Thank you so much for that clarification. I'm still really super impressed by the FMO building in the Netherlands, which has the SDGs across the whole face of the building wall. I remember when I spoke at the UN General Assembly about financing the SDGs, and we announced our SDG impact bonds. The FMO was the first. I remember Michael being super excited. So thank you for your support to the SDGs. Bram.
Yeah, thank you. So the K of keeping the faith is related, of course, for us to the cricket championship.
Correct.
Because I think we are the first time in the world championship at the moment. And actually in the Netherlands, cricket is somewhat non-existent because it doesn't get broadcasted at all. So I think only the Indian community in the Netherlands is watching at the moment. But I hear a lot from you guys, so I heard that they at least already won some games, so that's hopeful. That's hopeful. Yeah, so I'm here sitting before you today as a representative of both Rabo Foundation, where I work, but also for Rabobank, because Rabobank itself, to draw a parallel with India, has been set up as a farm producer organization 125 years back. And as a farm producer organization, we have been developing into a food and agri bank, both domestically as worldwide. So the Rabo Foundation has been set up 50 years back, so we have actually 2 anniversaries this year to celebrate. And Rabo Foundation was set up to develop small farmer livelihoods in emerging economies. And yeah, that's of course a big challenge for the foundation. So we're active in 3 continents, but we do have the experience in the agricultural sector. But as Rabo Foundation, we don't have an investment thesis. The investment thesis lies with Rabobank. So within the bank, we have a couple of verticals that look at investments, and the biggest supporter of the sector, I think, in India is Rabo Partnerships. So Rabo Partnerships has internally also 3 verticals, which is advisory, which is one. The second one is blended finance, and the third one is investments. So the first one, advisory part, is the longest standing vertical, and that is all aimed at developing banks in emerging economies. While that has been done in consultancy way, they have now also seen, as of 25 years back, that investments in bank can also help develop these organizations. So in India, they have recently done a ticket with Avanti Finance, which is not per se an investment to have an upside in the end, but the name Rabo Partnerships is definitely for a reason. They look for strategic partnerships. Actually, like Srivali has mentioned with BMGF as well, we look for partnerships and to develop the small farmer community in the end. Yeah, so I'll leave it with that. We see with Rabo Foundation that for the near future, I think farmer financing is one of the biggest challenges in the country. And definitely with the things going on in terms of development, infrastructure, technology, human resources in India, I'm very hopeful that we can pull this off as well.
Thank you, Bram.
Yeah. Thank you. I'm Ruchira, I represent IFC. For those who may not be familiar, IFC is the private sector arm of the World Bank Group. We've been active in emerging markets for over 6 decades. IFC has its own balance sheet, separate from the World Bank balance sheet. So we are balance sheet investors, but we do mobilize capital, so we bring in other partner capital wherever possible. We are both an LP and a GP. So active investor in funds, both VC funds and PE funds, but even more active on the direct side. I'm responsible for South Asia, so I do South Asia disruptive tech investing. Our direct portfolio takes up most of my time, but we also have VC funds in our portfolio that I manage. So currently across South Asia, we have 19 direct positions and 10 VC funds. We have a separate team that takes care of the PE funding. We care about both impact and financial returns. So on the impact side is the usual impact metrics. We actually measure impact as it is expected to play out before our investment goes in and then throughout the life of the investment. And even for our direct positions, we are delivering very strongly on the impact metrics as well as financial returns. In India, we backed 16 direct investments and 8 grew to be unicorns. So I am a strong believer that both impact and returns can coexist.
Thank you, Richard. You mentioned you back people who start and then they grow to unicorns. Is there any team that you're backing in the World Cup this time?
Well, you know, old-fashioned and probably at the risk of dating myself, I still think Kapil is the best cricketer.
Wow, certainly. 1983, who can forget that? Great victory. Last but not the least, Prachi from Dell, and Prachi and I co-chair the IIC. So Prachi, congratulations to you for this amazing work, and the lady on your right who has put this morning's breakfast together, and her team, Sagar and others here. I'm sure, you know, all of us owe this early morning start. We want to blame people for waking you up early, but you know, I think it's been really fabulous. So Prachi, over to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree. When I had heard about this idea of having this very early morning breakfast in a 2-day hectic programming for the event, I was very nervous about, you know, whether we'll have a full room or an empty room. But I'm seeing now, as we are closing the doors, that that was such a big hit, and thanks to the team for pulling it off. Could not attend the event yesterday, but looking forward to the proceedings of the day. My name is Prachi Witness. I am from Michael and Susan Dell Foundation, which is the family foundation of the Dells. In fact, I'm just coming back from our annual convening that we had with the Dells in the US. And what stayed with me is the Dells saying we're just getting started in this space, which is very encouraging for all of us in the impact space. We invest in 3 areas. We invest in India in financial inclusion, largely which is going to MSME financing and companies which are enabling financing for nano entrepreneurs. These are really small entrepreneurs, you know, which are sometimes new to credit, but also not being able to graduate from the very small and informal loans which are available to them. The second area that we invest in are jobs and livelihoods. Here, more and more of our work has started becoming more job tech, some skill tech, but primarily job tech. We invested in a lot of gig platforms which have enabled the youth coming from low-income families to get into the job platforms in a very different way, either through microtasking or creating more entrepreneurial job opportunities for them and providing them that progressive ladder. And finally, we invest a lot in education, largely EdTech, but companies which are focusing on creating those high-quality education solutions for students who are coming from low-income families, either studying in affordable private schools or studying in government schools. We are a multi-instrument kind of organization. We are not a fund. So we've done everything from doing investments in the form of equity, largely coming the ticket size of $2 to $3 million. We can do that. We are also doing credit guarantees. And increasingly, we've started playing a lot in the blended finance space, where we've done impact-linked debt. We've done 3 impact bonds in India now, 2 in education, 1 in skilling, and we've also looked at a host of credit guarantee solutions.
Thank you so much, Prachi. We have one unresolved matter, which is the French Open player, which you haven't mentioned, so that we can then close this part of the session.
I was Iga Swiatek.
Okay, cool. So we got that out of the way. So we have a 9:25 commitment to break. We have to eat. And in Delhi, you can't live on love and fresh air. Sorry for that. That's a Bombay person and me talking. But we would like maybe just 2 questions from the Chippy community here, and then we carry on the conversation. The intent is not to have a over-the-table conversation, but over breakfast, one-on-one, grab the people that resonated with your strategy, put a face to the name, get a contact, and then follow it up. The whole purpose of IIC is to facilitate these conversations. IIC has done some tremendous work in bringing domestic pools of capital, private family offices, and others to the table in the past. This is a great convening with GPs and LPs, and we hope this will continue. Hopefully we do one in Singapore next year. We've had some good interest from Temasek yesterday. So we would like to keep these conversations going, and do give us your feedback or to the IIC team. Can the IIC team please stand so we can applaud you for this event? So with that, are there any two quick questions or, yeah, Ignacio, you have your hand up? No, okay. So I think, okay, Dhruva.
Question for Lena. Would EIB actually do private sector investments in climate investments in India without the government of India, DEA coming in between?
Yes.
Yes.
But we invest in India mainly at our own risk, so it has to be something.
Do you need?
So we need a big ticket, generally, like 50 million and above.
Right.
And it needs to be kind of an acceptable risk because we don't have.
That's fine.
So
is a DEA request required or a no objection required?
I believe a no objection will be required, but not a DEA request. We can do both.
Okay, great. So we didn't have any further questions. So Sagar wants the panel to be in front of this for a photograph, and then we immediately break for breakfast. Thank you all. As always, you've been a great audience. Thank you.